This video is sponsored by Care of. My name is Angie and I refinish furniture. Sometimes I paint and sometimes I don't, but I always do what I can to save old pieces from the trash. Welcome to my workroom. Welcome back to another video, everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be redoing this mid-century walnut dresser. Now, this is not solid walnut, it's walnut veneer, which is what most mid-century pieces are. There's a misconception that a lot of these pieces are solid wood, and they often have solid wood components like handles and legs, and the frame is usually solid wood. Sometimes the drawers are, but more often than not, they are pressed wood with veneer over top, just like the sides here. There are quite a few chips out of the bottom. You can actually see here some of the remnants of that mildew staining, as well as a bit of the construction. You can see the frame is solid wood, but again, those side panels are not. These legs are solid wood, but they're not walnut. I'm going to pull these drawers out and you can see that most of the drawer box is made of wood or plywood. And when I got to these two, I had a little trouble getting them out, and the reason for that becomes quite clear a little later on. Now, in addition to being a little bit mildewy from storage, this piece is pretty dirty. Years and years of dust and cobwebs. So before I go any further, that's the first thing I'm going to do, is just clean everything out. My plan for this piece changed a couple of times. Initially, when I brought it home from storage, I thought it was in better shape than it was. I thought it just needed a good cleaning, maybe a little patchwork here and there, but I didn't expect to have to redo the whole thing. But as I got into it, while I was cleaning it, I noticed more and more chips and little issues with the finish, scratches, so I decided I was going to completely redo this. Even though by this point I already knew that I would be stripping the piece, I wanted to make sure it was clean and that there was no more mildew in there. I'm using my favorite stripper, which is circa 1850. You can see this brush is a little bit stiff right now, but as soon as it gets into the stripper, it softens right back up and I can reuse this brush several times. You can't tell from the video, but it is extremely hot in the garage and you can see that my stripper wants to dry up almost immediately. I'm talking, it's like probably 27 degrees in there right now. It's really important to keep it wet. I know that some people like to put saran wrap over their strippers. Honestly, I don't have that kind of time to sit and wait for that to work, so I just keep adding little bits as needed, and it's usually only about 5 or 10 minutes before it's ready anyway. Once I had all of the stripper off, I went in with my surf prep and a 150 grit sand pad. I get asked quite often why I don't just sand the finish off. Trust me, stripping it off is way faster and there's less risk of ruining the veneer with a sander. And you don't spend as much money in sandpaper. Now I know this looks like a solid wood drawer face, but pay attention when I flip the drawer over to the handle area where the recess is. You will actually be able to see the pressed wood. That veneer and edge banding catches a lot of beginners, so this is something to watch for. I just want to take a quick moment to say thank you to Care of for partnering with me on this video. I love getting this little red box of happy mail in the post every month. Care of takes the guesswork out of building a holistic routine with vitamins and supplements, probiotics, You take a super easy quiz online and they put together this package for you. The vitamin packages come in this easy dispenser. You just pull your pack out for the day. I love that each pack has its own little quote. And I also love that these packages are compostable. In addition to these vitamin packs, which are so easy to take with you on the go, there are a ton of other products. My quiz matched me with these little gut check powder packs. These are probiotics on the go. And I really love their plant protein powders. If you've ever tried different plant-based protein powders, you know that sometimes they're a little bit grainy or they get clumpy. I just put a scoop of this into some nut milk and give it a shake, and it's just super smooth and delicious every time. I also really like the chocolate flavored one. One thing that I really value about Care of is that if your lifestyle or your needs change, you can retake the quiz and get matched with new products as fits your life at the time. I've said it before in my videos, I will not recommend something that I don't use and love personally. Andrea and I have both been using these since February. You can click the link in the description box below or use this QR code to take the quiz for yourself and use my code FURNITURE50 to save 50% off your first order. Changing your habits is the first step in creating a healthy new life. Okay, time to get to work here. You can see on the inside of this drawer there's a bit of a gummy section. This is a Vic Art dresser, and normally it has a sticker, a maker sticker on the inside top drawer. Clearly that's been ripped off at some point, so I definitely want to make sure that the label on the back survives so that people can identify this. Now, there's a problem with the handles. Normally, wooden handles screw on or bolt on, and you can take them off and refinish the drawer and then put them back. These are tacked in, like with a pin, and glued, so if I try to pry this up, there's a chance I could ruin the veneer underneath of it and also possibly break the handle. So I'm going to refinish these with the handles on, which I hate doing. I really hate it. But sometimes you have no choice. It's worth mentioning here that these handles aren't solid walnut. They are some other type of lighter wood. Usually they're ash or beech or something. I'm going to be staining them with a water-based stain to darken them up. And water-based stain is fairly opaque if you use it full strength. So I'm not worried about getting every single mark off of those handles. In fact, leaving some of the old dye stain will actually help it look more like walnut wood grain. As far as the framing goes, we've got walnut veneer on the outside, walnut veneer, edge banding on the front here. This bottom board is solid wood with no edge banding, so you can see it's a totally different color than the walnut. And these dark rails in the front are also solid wood with no edge banding, so if I sand these down, they're going to be very light like the bottom board. So what I need to do is stain them as well. I'm going to be using the same water-based stain that I put on the handles. Now you'll notice here I sanded part of these all the way down to the bare wood, and along the edge and bottom I didn't. My goal here was to just get it smooth. Like I said, this water-based stain is super opaque and it's going to go right over top of that old finish. I just need it smooth without any cracks or dents. So that's why some of this was sanded all the way and some of it wasn't. But once the stain goes on, you won't even be able to tell. I'm using Saman water-based stain in the color, I believe it's called Antique Walnut, and it's a nice rich reddish brown. I'm going to be using Odie's oil on the actual walnut veneer on this piece, and you'll notice that the water-based stain that I put on is a bit darker. That's okay because this will deepen a little bit as the Odie sort of settles in. And I wanted the handles and anything that I stained dark to kind of bring out the darker tones in the actual walnut. And you can see once the stain had dried and I put Odie's oil on top of that, it does blend in a bit more. Before I can apply the Odie's oil to the top, I have to deal with this chipped corner. You can actually see the pressed wood here as the lowest layer, and then there is a layer of veneer substrate on top of that, and then the walnut veneer is on top of that one. What I'm going to do is cut off the jagged piece of walnut veneer. And I'm going to add a little bit of wood filler to the pressed wood area so that I can get it level with the substrate. Once I have that done, I can sand it off flat and apply a new piece of walnut veneer. You can see the water-based stain that I applied has a bit of a dry, chalky look to it. That's what it looks like until you put a clear coat on it. So once I put the Odie's oil on it, you're going to see it deepen right up and get a little bit of a sheen as well. Like I mentioned earlier, this stain is a little bit darker than the natural color of the walnut. That's okay, it's going to pull those darker colors out of the original walnut. And once you get the drawers in, it's actually going to be a lot more subtle. So turning my attention now to the legs, again, these are not walnut, they're a very light wood. I'm going to be using that same Saman water-based stain on the legs. So this is actually a great shot of what I was saying earlier about how this stain looks a little bit chalky. Once I put the Odie's oil on it and let it sit for a little bit and then wipe it back, you get a nice sort of low luster sheen, and it looks a lot more like a nice dark stained wood. So my little patched area is dry and it's time to sand it smooth and apply the new piece of veneer. When you have damage like this on corners, there's multiple ways to do it. You can use something like Bondo or wood filler and just paint the new wood grain on. That does work quite well when there's structural damage. I like to use real veneer where I'm able to. You do have to be careful that it's very well secured because these corners are vulnerable to getting bumped, but luckily this one is on the back corner, so most likely will be against a wall, and I'm not worried at all about using a veneer patch here. What I'm doing here is just picking the area of veneer that I want to take my patch from. When I'm doing this, I try to look for things like the value in the woods, like how light or how dark certain areas are, how the wood grain flows. Sometimes you have to look for a figure that's very similar, and it's rare that you get something that is a 100% match, but obviously the goal here is to try to get as close to the original as possible. Once I have my little patch cut, I'm going to test it, just make sure that it's going to work for me, and then I'm going to apply some glue. Once the glue is down, I can press this into place and add some painter's tape to just make sure it doesn't shift, and then clamp it down to let it dry. One misconception about Odie's oil that I hear every now and then is that it's difficult to make repairs once the finish is cured. Let's say someone scratches a table, for example. For some reason, there are people that have it in their minds that it's difficult to do this, and I'm going to show you right here just how easy it is. I had to sand the patch to the same level as the rest of the veneer, so you can see I sanded right into the Odie's oil, but then I just added more Odie's oil, and it's great. I still have to do a little bit of color matching on this patch, but yeah, Odie's oil is the easiest to touch up that I've ever dealt with in terms of finishes. And many of you have been asking for this for a while because it's been a while since I've done one. Here is today's Rescue Bunny intermission. I hope you enjoyed that quick little bunny romp. So looking back now at what I started with, again, this is one of those pieces that might look good from afar, but once you get up close, you start to see a lot of the issues with it. The finish pretty much everywhere really did need a reset. And do you remember these 3 drawers in the middle that I could not open properly, that I said weren't supposed to be there? You're about to see where they actually belong. This was a bit of a quick flip for me compared to what you're probably used to seeing in my videos, but I still wanted to share it with you. Hopefully someone can pick up a few tips and tricks here and there. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you like this sort of content, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps my channel out a lot. And I will see you next time.